Well, welcome everybody. This is day one of the workshop on a smarter way to grow your online sales. And I am super excited to see the people that are arriving here. This today is going to take about 45 minutes. Each day will take about 45 minutes. I've allowed for an hour, which means that if you have questions, feel free to write them down in the chat area or in the Q&A area, and I will get to those at the end of the presentation. It's difficult for me to take a look at the chat areas while doing the presentation, but I don't want you to lose any questions that you might have. So go ahead and put them into the chat or the Q&A as you think of them, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get back to sharing the screen. As I said, this is day one of our workshop on a smarter way to grow your online sales. And as a way of introduction, for me, let me introduce myself real quickly. My name is Greg. I am the president and founder of Web Stores Limited. And you can see up here on the screen that there's a number of things that I've done, including awards that I've won and so forth. The most important thing here is that I have been building e-commerce websites pretty much since the start of the internet. I started out building software applications back in 1985, been building internet applications since 1995, and creating e-commerce websites since 2002. So over a couple of decades of building e-commerce websites, during that time, I built literally hundreds and hundreds of online stores. I've written over a dozen books, several of which have become #1 bestsellers. And the most important thing here is not that I know all this stuff, but that I've worked with a lot of companies just like yours that have given me a lot of knowledge as I've worked with different kinds of companies in terms of what's working and what isn't working with online sales. So it's really the people like you that are attending this webinar that have allowed me to gain some insights on how things work and don't work. And the idea here over the next 3 days is to share some of that knowledge with other people. So to that end, I have created a formula that I call the 5 Ps of e-commerce. And it doesn't actually stand for begging for somebody to buy your product, saying, please, 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 please. Instead, like I said, it's an actual formula that says that profits is equal to your problems, your products, your platform, your page views, and your purchases. So we're going to discuss each of those points here over the next few days, and we're going to start with problems. Now, the biggest problem is that you know that there are some companies and individuals that are receiving massive amounts of traffic and racking up sales every single hour of the day. And you're wondering why it's not happening to you. In fact, I was just skiing the other day with some colleagues, and one of them asked me, what's the difference between the people that you work with that are struggling to get a few $100s a month in sales versus other people that are getting thousands of dollars a day in sales? Sometimes I've actually had customers that have called me up and said, hey, we haven't received any orders for 2 hours. What's wrong? So there is a difference, and we're going to talk about that today. But that seems to be one of the big issues, is how can we make sure that we are in the group of people that are getting consistent sales on their website. Now, historically, there have been 2 primary ways to grow your business. One is with advertising, spending money. Spend lots of money on advertising to grow your audience. And the other is time. You invest lots of time to grow your audience organically, such as through content marketing, search engine optimization, and social media. Now, you might get lucky and have something go viral, but that's a long shot. Now, the problem with ads is that bots actually make up 64% of internet traffic. 25% of those are good bots. The search engines, social networks, monitoring bots, and 40% of them are bad bots. Things like web scrapers, attack scripts, persistent bots. That leaves like 36% of your traffic that is actual human beings. So what does this mean for you and your online business? Well, a colleague of mine recently tried running Google ads for AI art products on his website. And after 2 days and only 24 clicks and absolutely 0 sales, Google Ads suspended his account. Well, when he read the report about so many bots on the internet, he was actually happy to have stopped paying Google for traffic. It's expensive to bid on highly competitive keywords to sell your products. And if only 36% are real humans who might be interested in your products or services, it's not really worth the money to advertise, especially given the rising cost of online ads. But it turns out organic traffic actually has similar problems. It can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to see results from search engines if there's high competition for certain keywords or your site isn't optimized properly. There are over 4.4 million new articles that are published every single day on the internet. With all that content out there flooding the web, it makes it really difficult to create content that stands out and gets noticed even after that 6 to 12 month period, which is why when you write blog articles, no one reads your content or shares it. So what's the better way? There's got to be a smarter way, and there is, and that is to borrow somebody else's audience. Think of a band, a musician. 90% of all artists fail, even the really talented ones. And this is because your success as a musician doesn't come down to your talent. It's mindset, hard work, patience, consistency. All of these things shape successful artists. Now, if you think of a band or a singer, and they might have a great local following, and they decide that they want to branch out nationally. So they start by reserving a concert venue in the next major city over, and they spend a ton of money on advertising. They do all kinds of social media posts, but they struggle to sell tickets because nobody's heard of them outside of their local following. Now, if you compare that to a band that hooks up with an artist like a Lady Gaga or a Blake Shelton, and they become the opening act for their concert, well, the famous singer sells a whole ton of tickets, and the startup artist gets all that exposure by riding on their coattails. They have effectively borrowed the audience of the headliner to grow their following. And that's what smart marketers are doing today. They find out where their market is, and then they figure out ways to get in front of somebody else's audience or platform. And this is actually why you don't need a big list of your own or a large social media following or to spend tons of money on ads. Now, several years ago, I wrote a book called Amazon's Dirty Little Secrets, where I explained how Amazon had grown their business on the backs of others. It started with an interview with Oprah Winfrey and 60 Minutes. And it continued with the adoption of an affiliate program in 1996. Amazon leveraged a large number of affiliates who were driving traffic to their website. In fact, affiliate sales counted for over 50% of the revenue generated by Amazon. Essentially, Amazon was built on other people's platforms. Some people refer to this as other people's networks or other people's audiences. But Amazon has continued to do this year after year, and Jeff Bezos has even continued to do this with his Blue Origin space company by sending William Shatner up into space and basically piggybacking on the Star Trek audience. So this is the secret to growing your online sales, and I'm going to show you how you can do this too. So step one, you need to define your ideal customer avatar. I've put a link up here on this slide that you can go to if you would like to fill out a form to do this. But let's assume that you are selling homemade candles or food seasoning or jewelry. Who do you think is your ideal customer? Well, you might think it's everyone because men buy these things for the women in their lives, but it's not. So then you might think, okay, it's women for all of these. But you need to get more specific. The ideal customer avatar for each of these products is actually very different. Let's take candles. What type of a woman buys candles? How old are they? How much money do they make? Where do they live? After you determine this, you should give your ideal customer a name, such as, hey, my ideal customer avatar's name is Cheryl, and she is 44 years old. She lives in suburbia. She's a professional who works hard all day, but loves coming home where she's proud of her home decor and enjoys entertaining. Now you've got an idea of exactly who your ideal customer is. But the second part of this step is to ask yourself why. Most people leave this part out, but it's really, really important. Why does your ideal customer avatar want or need your product? If you're selling candles, for example, why does this person enjoy candles? Is it because of the sense of calmness and relaxation it evokes, the scent, the uplifting or romantic ambiance? Is it because it adds class to your interior spaces? Because it helps you unwind and improves your mood? You need to specify exactly what problems you are solving for your ideal customer. For e-commerce companies, your best research tool for doing this is Amazon. When you search for a product on Amazon, they give you all kinds of information. By looking at the customer reviews and most wished for sections, you are basically given a crystal ball on what your customers desire and what problems they have with current offerings that are out there. It has been said that the best way to rank on Google is to be the best answer on the internet. When it comes to selling your products online, the best way to compete with the giants in your industry is to solve problems for your customers better than anybody else. Now, the next step in marketing to other people's platforms is to determine where your ideal customer avatar already congregates. Figure out what blogs they read, what podcasts they listen to, what Facebook groups they belong to, what Pinterest boards they subscribe to, what conventions they go to. This is the reason why you need to understand your ideal customer's motivation for buying your product. If you're selling candles, is your ideal customer a fan of Martha Stewart or of the Cancer Yogi? These are two very different ICAs. It's possible that you are targeting more than one ICA, but your message to each is different. So to start with, keep it simple and just pick one. Now that you know where they're hanging out, who is the owner of these communities, platforms, or groups? You want to go and make a list of these people and research their contact information. In fact, make a list of 100 such platforms and the people who run them. I've got a colleague named Russell Brunson that calls this your Dream 100. I call it your ideal influencers. You want to divide your ideal influencers into groups such as influencers, podcast hosts, affiliate marketers, customers, etc. And also list your competitors. You want to research them, as they might consider you a threat, or they might be willing to work with you. For example, a large candle company like Yankee Candles could either ignore you, or they could see you as a specialty player that would bring value to their customer base. And you need to know this. So you've got all these people, you know where they're hanging out, you know who owns those communities. You're now going to approach them and see if they are willing to be your partners. Now, there can be all different kinds of partners out there. You can partner up with resellers or retailers. You can partner up with affiliates, much like what Amazon did and still does. You can create joint ventures. You can get partners that are just do referral marketing, or you can find brand ambassadors. So there's all different types of partners that you can partner up with. Now, why would someone want to partner with you? Well, commissions and money-making opportunities are obviously high on the list, but the number one reason is actually likely to be cross-exposure. So when you're creating these partnership agreements, make sure that you are providing not just a commission if somebody sends out your message to their email list or their social media following, but that you have some way of reciprocating. Basically, your partners are going to want access to your platform just like you want access to theirs, even if you don't have that many followers. By having a blog, a podcast, or a YouTube show where you can showcase them is the best way to get somebody to partner with you. I was actually blogging I blog every week. I was actually podcasting for a couple of years, and it gave me access to people who would never have given me the time of day otherwise. I got to speak with CEOs of companies, major influencers out there, people like Guy Kawasaki, that were willing to come and be on my podcast, and I got to talk with them one-on-one. So it's a great networking opportunity and a fantastic way for you to partner with somebody simply because you have a platform that they don't otherwise have access to. Now, we talked about ads already and the cost of ads, but what about them? Is it possible to actually utilize ads? And of course, ads are not dead at this point. They just have gotten more costly. So here's the secret to how to effectively run ads when you're utilizing other people's platforms. And that is to target your ads at people who follow your ideal influencers. Let's say, for example, that you're selling home decor and you've determined your ideal audience follows Martha Stewart. Well, rather than targeting ads that say 35 to 55-year-old housewives, target your ads at people who follow Martha Stewart. Even if she doesn't partner with you, you can still reach her audience by doing this. Nearly every advertising platform, including Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, allow you to target your ideal influencers. When you do this, your goal is not to sell something with your ad, but rather to get those ideal customers onto your email list. Because once they're on your list instead of on somebody else's list, now you own that traffic and you can market to them over and over again. When I was actually trying to find partners for the program that I'm currently launching, which we'll talk more about on day 3, I had the owners of several Facebook groups tell me that they charged for posting on their groups. What they didn't realize is that, first of all, not everyone reads every post on their group, so it would have been a waste of money because, in fact, most groups postings, they get ignored. But what I could do is I could actually create a Facebook ad to target the members of those groups on my own, with the added benefit of using the Facebook pixel to track them. So if I wanted to find somebody in an e-commerce group on Facebook, I can actually create an ad and target people that belong to that e-commerce group. So that's how you can utilize ads to target other people's platforms. Now, there's a number of other ways that you can target other people's platforms as well. One is featured customers. Now, think of a customer of the month club where you do a case study on them and you write up an article about how great their business is. They're obviously going to proudly send this off to all their contacts and followers, allowing you to gain access to their network. Dunkin' Donuts actually did a great job of this a few years ago by having a customer of the week, and whoever they selected as customer of the week, those people obviously went out there and they said, "Hey, I'm the Dunkin' Donuts customer of the week," and they shared those posts with all of their friends and followers. Another way to access other people's platforms is to use influencers. Influencers are what people often think about when it comes to leveraging other people's networks. And my neighbor is a prime example of this. She used to be my cat sitter, and she would come over, and every time that I would need to go on a business trip, she would babysit our cat. Well, the last time she came over about a year ago, she said, "I can't watch your cat anymore." And I was like, "Why? What's up?" And she's like, "Well, I'm a TikTok influencer now." And I kind of smiled and I was like, "Well, how many followers do you have?" "Well, I've got about 12 million. I about fell on the floor. What I should have done right then and there is said, "Forget about the cat. Tell me how you're doing this." She now has over 20 million followers on TikTok. She's got over 2 million subscribers to her YouTube channel. And she now makes a living by letting clothing and makeup brands tap into her audience. So if you can find somebody that's an influencer, that's you are probably going to be paying them, but that's a fantastic way of utilizing other people's platforms. Guest posts are another great way to tap into somebody else's platforms. Now, I have personally generated over 158,000 links pointing back to my website. By writing articles and having other websites post your article on their blog, it gives you a certain level of credibility. And more importantly, it gives you a link back to your website that's available to the readers and visitors of that blog. The reason why that's so important is backlinks to your website are one of the key factors when it comes to search engine optimization. The other great thing about guest posts is I allow people to post guest articles on my site. Now, obviously, they need to be things that are related to the reasons why people come to my website in the first place. So they need to be about e-commerce, selling online, marketing your products online, and so forth. But people, I get probably 2 or 3 requests a week of people wanting to post articles on my website. And the best ones, I allow them to do that. Now, obviously, they get a backlink to their website, which is good for them. But the reason why I do it and why it's important to allow people to post guest articles on your site is that these people then go out and say, hey, I just got this article published on Web Stores Limited, and here's the link to it. So they're driving traffic to my site that way as well. Another great way to get into other people's platforms is through the use of user-generated content. Imagine that you don't have any money for marketing, but you want to grow your brand and your sales. How is this possible? Well, if you think about GoPro, which we've got the example up here, my kids and a lot of my friends use GoPro cameras for skiing and mountain biking and scuba diving and all kinds of things because it's synonymous with point of view footage for extreme sports. Now, if GoPro had been backed by venture capital, they likely would have been put out very traditional ads and very boring ads. A spokesperson would have held up the camera and pointed out its features, telling you why it was so great. You would have seen its specs and were told that it's rugged enough to take everywhere. But GoPro was founded by a 26-year-old named Nick Woodman, who had retreated to Australia after an entrepreneurial failure. Now, just 10 years later, his company is worth $2.25 billion. And this was all done on the back of user-generated content. It wasn't just testimonials that GoPro users submit to GoPro. They like to show off what they're doing when they use the camera. And the most incredible part of this is not all the amazing scenes like you see here of this bike going down this really steep mountain, or the fact that they get millions of views because of this. The most incredible thing is that the company gets their customers to market for them for free. And even better, consumers trust content that's generated from other customers more than from the brand itself. And that's what user-generated content is all about. 79% of consumers say that user-generated content highly impacts their purchasing decisions. You don't have to be selling something like GoPro. You could be selling candles. You could be selling candy. You could be selling just about anything, but let your users generate content so that you can tap into their audiences. Podcasts are a great way to get in front of other people's audiences. I mentioned that earlier, how I was able to talk to people that I had never talked to before, and probably wouldn't have talked to me if I didn't have my own platform. But here's a really important thing to know. When you're a guest on somebody else's podcast, you should always create a freebie that is specifically for that audience and then generate a short link that's easy to remember. For example, when I appeared on Tom Antion's podcast, Screw the Commute, I created a giveaway using the URL of my website, webstoresltd.com/screw the commute. It was super easy to remember. It was easy for Tom to remember. It was easy for his listeners to remember. People didn't have to think of anything else. They knew that, hey, Greg Jameson from Web Stores Limited was the guest, and his free gift was available at webstoreslimited.com/screw the commute. Now, when they go there to get the free gift, they are going to give you their contact information. So you now have essentially leveraged the podcast host audience to get people onto your list, and you have leveraged their audience. Now, if you're looking for podcast opportunities, there's actually a number of different sites out there that will match you up with podcast hosts. Obviously, every podcast isn't good for every single product or service that is being offered. But if you go to places like radioguestlist.com, matchmaker.fm, ones you see up here, you can take a screen capture of this if you want. Those sites will match you up with podcast hosts that would be good for you to appear on. Now, in order to be a podcast guest, you need to have a compelling story. And when you go to these sites, they're going to give you the opportunity to write a paragraph about what your compelling story is. If you've written a book, that makes you an author, and podcast hosts like to interview authors. But if you just have a really compelling story about how you started your e-commerce business and how you're helping people with your e-commerce business, that may make you an ideal guest on somebody's podcast, and you can find them at one of these sites. Another really powerful way of leveraging other people's platforms is by hosting your own online summit. This gives you the opportunity to grow your email list by huge numbers, because what you do is you ask all the presenters on your online summit to drive traffic to your registration page. So it's not just you saying, hey, I've got these 6 people that are doing this day-long summit with me, but Bob Smith and Jane Jones and whoever is speaking at your summit, you tell them to, as part of speaking at your summit, that you want them to promote it to their list. All right, the next part of the presentation today is platforms, the second P. And platforms are basically synonymous with location, location, location. Rather than just having your own online store, you should be on multiple platforms. The platform is the locations where you're selling. Now, you might have this challenge that you've got a single inventory, and if you put stuff up on your own store, and then you also put stuff up on Amazon, and then you put stuff up on eBay, and you put stuff up on Overstock or Walmart or Fair or whatever, you are going to run into this issue of, well, how do I keep track of all my inventory? And the solution is to use your own store as the center, the focal point on the internet of everything that you're selling, and you just create feeds to these other platforms so that the feed then pulls the inventory from your own online store. Now, for companies that sell products online, you really don't want to just limit yourself to selling on your own website. By leveraging highly visited shopping sites, it could put your brand and products in front of all kinds of new customers. You could sell on a marketplace like Amazon or Etsy, or you could sell on a social media site like Facebook or Instagram, on Google Shopping, or elsewhere. There are literally thousands of places where you could sell your products. Remember the famous musician and the opening act? Well, finding the right place to sell your products is much the same, as these places are going to bring you new customers. Now, your own online store is a great way to sell your products online. And whether you use WooCommerce or Shopify, your own online store allows you to control aspects of your business that marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, or Etsy do not. With your own online store, you don't pay commissions to a marketplace, and the customers belong to you. But there's a problem. You have to promote it yourself. Whether you use ads, organic traffic, trade shows, social media, or anything else to drive traffic to your website through other people's audiences, you have to promote it yourself. But online marketplaces bring you traffic. Now, more locations is basically equal to more sales. You need your own shopping cart, as your website is the hub of your business online. With it, you control everything, and you can use it as a feed to other channels. But when using other people's platforms, don't discount the platforms that can bring you business. Every platform is different. For example, with Amazon, you don't own the customer. Amazon does. But you can see here that by being on multiple channels, that it is going to bring you more sales. Just adding one other channel, the average increase in revenue is 38%. But by adding two more channels, your revenue goes up 120%, and three channels goes up 190%. Now, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, but getting yourself on these other channels is a great way to increase your revenues. Now, in May of last year, Amazon disclosed this eye-raising milestone. They basically indicated that they sold roughly the same number of goods in the most recent quarter as it did in the same period the previous year. And in 2022, just last year, Amazon made up 38% of all e-commerce sales. As a result, both Google and Facebook, or Meta, as they've rebranded themselves, are fighting to be the next e-commerce marketplace. You think that they want in on part of Amazon's action? You bet they do. And the reason is that there's a problem with these other companies that rely on ads. What was for a brief period of time in history a marketer's dream, where you could target anybody that you wanted to, you could find a 35-year-old soccer mom that lived in suburbia and was a stay-at-home mom who had 3 kids. You could do that, and if that's who your product was targeting, that was great. But all these new laws that have been out there, if you want to remain compliant, it's now become a nightmare for you to utilize that data. And as a result of that, the cost of advertising on places like Facebook and Google has risen, while the targeting that you can actually go after has become very broad and generic. So, combined with fewer abilities to target your ideal customer, you can see the costs here on the right. They've risen over the past few years. Meta, i.e. Facebook, wants to become an e-commerce platform, and they've tried launching a number of different e-commerce features into their websites. They've had some stumbles, but they're not giving up. They're basically banking on e-com to replace their lost ad revenue. You need to watch out for Google too. Google is also going after e-commerce, and you can get substantially more traffic through Google Shopping, also known as Google Shopping ads, much like being on a marketplace. Here's a really cool thing, and we're going to spend a few minutes here talking about Google Shopping. Google has vowed that they're never going to charge a percentage of transactions like Amazon and Meta do, but instead they plan to make their money through ad spend. In other words, this is a pay-per-click model. Google's marketing portal, it's called Google Merchant Center, and it allows you to promote products from your own online store and reach more qualified prospects. Basically, Google Merchant Center is a tool that allows businesses to upload their product information to Google so that it can be displayed in Google Shopping. The Merchant Center lets you manage how your in-store and online product inventory appears on Google. This program, Buy on Google, is set to revolutionize online sales. Selling on multiple channels is one of the best ways to increase your online sales. And when one of those channels is Google, it makes even more sense. Google Shopping basically allows you to get on multiple Google properties from a single listing, all of which is controlled by the Merchant Center. Now, for years, Amazon has basically dominated e-commerce. And because they were the only show in town, retailers had no choice but to pay up with fees, commissions, fulfillment, warehousing costs, etc. Google Shopping has basically been called the anti-Amazon because unlike Amazon, the customers belong to you, so you can build your own email list, and it doesn't cost you anything to list your products in the program. So while the platform has been called the anti-Amazon, it's interesting that Amazon itself is actually advertising on it. So how much does Google Shopping cost? Well, product listings on Google Shopping are free. You're never charged for a product showing up in a search. Just like with organic searches in Google, you aren't charged for that. You can list your products in Google Shopping absolutely for free. You only pay when a customer clicks on the link on your ad, which will take them directly to the product page on your online shop. In other words, this is a pay-per-click model. So if you're not listing your products on Google, you're missing out. Here's an example of how this works. I went to Google Shopping, I put in Colorado blue spruce tree, and you can see a number of different listings come up, all different kinds of prices. You can narrow your search down based upon hardiness zones and brand or shipping or the price and so forth. The cool thing here is that these listings don't just show up on the shopping tab, but they show up anywhere on Google, including the blended search results. So if I do a Google search for buy custom belt buckles, you can see that the Google Shopping ads appear as part of the blended search results. In order to have your products show up on the Google listings, you have to create a Google Merchant Center account. From there, you can manually add individual products, or you can upload a feed that is a specially formatted file. If you have lots of products or your inventory changes frequently, automatically uploading a file to the feed clearly makes the most sense. To upload your product data into the Google Merchant Center, you need to create this feed, which will allow you to submit your data. This step is required for any new feed, but once a feed is registered, you can update that existing feed without having to register it again. Google will actually crawl your site to find products in your store, but you get better control if you create the product feed yourself. Now, setting up and creating the product feed is the most complex part of this whole process. So there are actually plugins and apps to simplify this for you. This is my Google Merchant Center account. You can see my name up here, Web Stores Limited, and it's showing the listing of some of the various books and print-on-demand products that I have created. So there are plugins to make that whole process of submitting your products through the feed much easier. One for WooCommerce is called Google Listings and Ads. It's a free plugin that's created by WooCommerce that allows you to showcase your products to shoppers all across Google. With this plugin, you can sync your store catalog with the Google Merchant Center. You can promote your products through paid ads by launching product-based performance campaigns right through your WooCommerce dashboard. You can easily list your products on Google with free listings, and you can gain insights on your listings and campaign performance by viewing impressions, clicks, sales and conversion by product, and campaign on your ad campaigns. Shopify stores have similar capabilities using the Google Channel app or the SimPro Google Shopping Feed app. Now, Google has a companion product that they call Buy on Google. So you've got Google Shopping, and then you've got Buy on Google. Now, originally, Google was using a pay per sale for shopping actions, which is what it was originally called. But since they rebranded it to Buy on Google, the program is now free. This is an absolute game changer. Buy on Google lets consumers buy products from wherever they are on the internet or wherever they are on Google. It could be through search, images, shopping, YouTube, or Google Assistant. They can add any participating product that they encounter from any of these places to their cart, no matter who sells it, and make a single transaction for all their purchases with ease. Essentially, Google has added a transactional layer to its powerful ads platform so that transactions can now be completed in Google. Google processes the transaction and sends the order information to the merchant for fulfillment. So summary here about Buy on Google, it allows you to get on multiple Google platforms all at once. It reduces the friction that your customers experience while shopping. It lets you build an email list, and it doesn't cost you anything to list your products in the program. How do you start using Buy on Google? Well, before you sign up for Buy on Google, you need to make sure that you're already set up with Google Shopping. You'll do that through the Merchant Center. You'll have to verify and claim your URL and upload your product data there. Once you're done with that, you head over to Google's Buy on Google page, scroll down and fill in the form. Then you sit tight and wait for Google to approve your application. Once approved, you'll want to get the ball rolling with Buy on Google. So here's your homework for today's workshop. First thing that I want you to do, step 1, define your ideal customer avatar and ask why they should buy your product or service. What problems are you solving? Step 2, determine where your ideal customer avatar already is congregating online. Who's the owner of those communities? Use that information that you've compiled and approach your ideal customers to let them know why they should work for you. And the third piece of your homework is visit Google Shopping at shopping.google.com and then register for an account at their Merchant Center. Go to google.com/retail/solution/merchant center. Go ahead and do a screen capture of this if you need to grab those URLs. So my question is, did you learn something new today? I hope you did. I know I dumped a lot of information on you, but more's coming tomorrow and the next day. This is going to be like drinking out of a fire hose here. I'm going to give you a bunch of information, but I think that as you can see, it's all really valuable information on ways that you can really grow your online sales that you may not have been thinking about. So more's coming tomorrow. We're going to discuss how to get more page views tomorrow and how to utilize your customer experience as part of your product offering. With that, I am going to take a look here at the chat area to see if there are any questions. Good to hear that, Deborah, about Google Shopping stuff. I think that it's really pretty amazing the types of things that are going to be coming down the line here. We're gonna, we keep hearing all this stuff about AI this and AI that, but there's a lot of other things that are happening on the internet that are really money makers for us if we know how to use them. So if there are any other questions, feel free to put it in the chat area and I will attempt to address that. If there are not, then I look forward to seeing everybody back here again tomorrow at the same time. We will go over the next 2 points in the 5 Ps formula. And we'll see you then. Oh, now I've got some questions coming in, so we won't sign off just yet. Do you need your own URL before registering with Google Shopping? Yes, you need to have an online store with your products already in there. If you do not have an online store yet, and you just want to put products up on Google Shopping, it does not work like Amazon or eBay does, where you can utilize them as your online store. You need to have a feed from your online store to Google. Downloaded the book, but you can't find it. Send me a direct email. I'm going to put that in here to everybody, what my email address is. And I will send you the direct link to the ebook where you don't have to give me your email address again. Does buy on Google take money once you sign on? If you are, so there's the shop on Google, which takes you from those ads to your website, and that is the pay-per-click model. So you get all these listings for free, but if you want to have if somebody clicks on your ad and it goes to your product page, like with the blue spruce trees that I was showing there, if you're selling blue spruce, it will take you to the page on your website where you're selling blue spruce. Google charges you for a click and they don't take any money. With the Buy on Google, the sister program, if you sign up for that, then Google actually collects the money, and because people may be shopping from multiple vendors all at once, Google collects the money and then sends you a notice. They send you the money and the notice that somebody has purchased your product through the Buy on Google platform. So yes, Buy on Google is free, but they take a commission when you sell something. Shop on Google is free for the listing, but they charge you for a pay-per-click. Hopefully that clears that up. And got your email there. I will send you that link to the book right after we get offline here. You're very welcome, and glad everybody got lots of good information out of this. We'll see you again tomorrow.